Photographs there of a man who grew up in the tropical heat of Sri Lanka, but who's moved to make his home here in chilly old Britain. Ilyaas Cader.
Hello.
But to get here, you had to walk all the way across Eastern Europe, hundreds and hundreds of miles through the snow, in the freezing cold winter of the year 2000. How did you feel going through all that? What was it like?
Oh, it was an experience I'll never forget. It left an indelible mark on my mind. It was terrible. But I was lucky. Very lucky. I said to my cousin, it was lucky we loved sports all our lives, so we were fit and strong. Even when we'd no food, we could battle through, no matter how much we had to suffer or how sore our legs were. We fought through with just one aim in mind, to get to London. That saved my life, that strength. Thank God for that. I'll never forget that experience. It's still branded in my mind. Sometimes it wakes me up at night thinking about it. I try to go back to sleep, but it wakes me up again. I've got 2 children now, so it's getting less, but it's still there in my mind. I'd like to write a book about it, or find some way of getting it out.
Let's go back to the start. You were born in 1973 in Sri Lanka. You were the 7th of 8 children, but you also have 2 older deaf sisters. Did you feel lucky to be born in a family where everyone signed and knew what it was like living with deaf people?
Well, growing up, I just thought it was natural that everybody signed. I didn't realise my 2 sisters were deaf. I thought it was natural. My mother's brother was deaf too, and he signed, so we all just signed to each other. But when it came to school, my father was very worried about me. He thought my sisters would be okay because they were women, but he was worried about me because I was a man. He searched all over because he wanted a Tamil language school. He was a strong Tamil speaker. So he didn't want me to go to the nearest school in Colombo, the capital. He said I had to go to Jaffna in the north. He found a school there, dressed me in the school uniform and told me I was going somewhere to learn to read and write. I just thought it was all fun. Then he took me all the way to Jaffna, miles away, and dropped me at the school. He and my brother were upset at leaving me, and when they went away, I started crying. I was really upset. Then I noticed everybody was signing. I grew up using home signs, but at school they were using proper Sri Lankan Sign Language, Tamil Sign Language. I could see it was different. It was very different, but I learned it, and people told me I learned fast. I said yes, we signed at home. They couldn't understand how. They asked me who in my family was deaf, but I said nobody, we just signed. So when I came home, I asked my mother why we all signed, and she told me 2 of my sisters were deaf. So I learned very late I had 2 deaf sisters, and we all signed to each other thanks to them. It was a powerful thing that the whole family signed because of them. I told my mum they signed differently at school, Tamil Sign Language. She said yes, she knew, and that Tamil signs were for school and home signs were for home. So I accepted that, and I learned to adapt, depending on where I was. So I grew up with that skill.
Now in Sri Lanka, 70% of the population are Buddhist. About 10% are Muslim, and you were a member of this minority. How did you feel about that? Was it a difficult situation?
Well, luckily, Potterville has 4 different communities: Buddhist, Hindus, Muslims, and Christians. My father was the mayor, and he ran the city well because he respected everybody, and everybody respected and admired him. In the north and east, there's a tight-knit Muslim community. Further north, there are Hindus, and both of these communities are Tamil-speaking. Thank God my father ran Potterville well and looked after everybody. It was more difficult in some other areas. There were divisions and hostilities and exclusion. My father was very open-minded, thank God, and he passed that on to us.
You were at school when one day your brother suddenly came to collect you and told you that your father had died. Was that a great shock? How did you feel?
My father worked very hard and he was a heavy smoker. That's why he died early, when I was 14. It was a big blow to me. I was at school at the time. How I found out, his death was announced on the radio. We didn't have TVs at the time. They broadcast that my father, the mayor of Potterville, had died. So my brother heard this and rushed to pick me up from school. I didn't know what was going on. When we were nearly home, he couldn't bottle it up any longer, and he blurted out that our father was dead. I was very upset. When we arrived, he'd already been buried. The funeral took place straight away, and I broke down in tears. It was terrible. My father's younger brother could see how close I was to my father, and I couldn't stop crying. So he said it would be best if I went back to school after a week to stop my dad's death preying on my mind. So it was a shock and really painful. I couldn't sleep for a long time, even after I went back to school. But I took my mind off it through sports, especially football. I love football, so gradually the pain eased.
In 1983, a civil war started in Sri Lanka. Bombs were dropped on your school and you had to be moved out. How did that feel?
Well, the Buddhist government started a bombing campaign round about 1990, 1989. So this bombing started out of the blue. And we were shocked. The bombing was horrendous. Explosions were going off all over the place. At my school, a woman was shot through the arm and knocked to the ground. We all panicked. We didn't know what to do. But the head and the deputy head came up with the idea of digging a shelter under the school field. We were scared, but we all mucked in, helping to dig out the soil. We spread leaves from banana trees and soil across the top for camouflage. So when the bombs started dropping, we all ran and hid in the bunker, about 30 or 40 of us, school boarders. It was really difficult to breathe because it was so cramped. We were crammed in like chickens in a coop. So we huddled in there, terrified, waiting till one of the teachers gave the all clear so we could go back outside again. Nobody knew what to do. We were all in a state of fear. It was hard to get enough to eat in the evening. Then the head decided we should go to Colombo. So we packed our stuff and one night we got our bags and a few clothes and started walking. Sometimes we were struggling, knee-deep in water. Then we came face to face with a terrorist. But he was happy to help deaf children and he got us onto a coach. So the coach made its way to a checkpoint between the two sides in the war. This soldier looked at us suspiciously and waved the head teacher over. The head teacher was shaking. He had to go up and stand, surrounded by soldiers pointing their guns at him and give sworn testimony. He told them we were a deaf school, he was the head, and we were going to Ratmalana School in Colombo, and the head teacher there was expecting us. So they rang the school, and the head teacher confirmed that we were from the Tamil sister school to the Buddhist school. He knew we were coming, and please give the deaf children safe passage. So to our relief, the soldiers all lowered their guns. They praised our headmaster for his honesty, and let us go through to Colombo, thank goodness. When I got back to Potterville, my mother couldn't believe her eyes. She was shocked. She thought I'd been killed in the bombings. She said thank God. She hugged me and cried. She'd heard a lot of rumours and she thought I was one of those killed in the war. She didn't know I'd been saved. She said thank God and please don't let it happen again. She said I was grown up now and I had to go study or train. So that's what I did.
So you'd left your school and moved to Colombo, and you got a job as a gem cutter. But why in Colombo? Why not somewhere nearer home?
Well, that's interesting. There's no deaf education in Potterville. There's no support to help deaf people find work or provide access. Nothing like that. It was a kind of dead end. They did have that in Colombo because deaf people go there from all over Sri Lanka. And there's training and support into work. It's great. That's why I moved there, and I was looking forward to it. So I trained as a gem cutter for 2 years. It was hard work, but I was successful.
In 2000, 2 of your brothers were living in London, and you felt you had to follow them there. You had to get out of Sri Lanka. Why did you have to leave?
Right, well, there were 3 reasons. First, the war was still going on and people were suffering. Second, there was no access for deaf people. And third, my brothers wanted me to join them. They told me life was good for deaf people here. There was good access, and they were equal to hearing people. So I talked with my mother and agreed I would go. My mother was worried. She said, "Why not stay and find some business here?" But I said, "No, I fly." I told her, there are 2 choices. Either I hang myself or I go. So she was a bit scared, but I told her to talk to my brother. He told her not to worry. He would sort everything out.
So you left Sri Lanka, but you didn't come straight to England. You went to Russia first. Why was that? Why not straight here?
Good point. I talked it through with my brother, and he told me to go to the British Embassy in Colombo. So I took all my papers and everything, but I got a straight no. They turned down my application. I didn't know what to do. My brother was annoyed that they wouldn't give me a visa. So he said I'd have to use the same people who helped him escape as a refugee. So that's why I had to use that route. We flew from Sri Lanka to Russia, to Moscow. 12 of us were kept in detention. Luckily, there was a woman standing by to help us. They phoned her, and she said she had taught me about deaf communication, access, things like that. She argued with the airport people. I was almost sick with worry because I'd failed twice and I didn't want to fail again and have to go back. I was getting really worked up, and so was my cousin. They kept arguing and arguing. Then they asked her my name, and they called out Ilyaas Cader. I put up my arm, and they said to go with them, my cousin too. They told everybody else to stay. So they questioned us. Did we have money? Yes. Did we have passports? Yes, and tickets. They checked that everything was in order, then they let us go through. And we were free. They stamped our passports and led us into Moscow. It was freezing. I didn't have the right clothes. I was shivering. But the woman told us not to worry. She knew. She had coats and things for us. So we put them on, and they felt strange. In Moscow, they told us we'd be going to Ukraine in a car, and we'd be staying there. I had no idea what Ukraine was, but I pretended I understood. I didn't complain about not understanding. I just accepted it. All I wanted was to get to London, so they took us a long car journey to Ukraine, and that was a relief. Then 4 men appeared. They were locals, Russians. They looked like army people, with masks, rifles, balaclavas, head torches, batons, everything. We were terrified, but they tried to reassure us. They said they were going to lead us to Germany, right? So we all agreed, and they said they would sort it all out. So they did a head count. There were 100 of us. Then they asked if we were ready. They said we had to leave promptly, as soon as nightfall came, and not to delay. Then we set off on this long, hard walk, up and down mountains, struggling through forests with branches scratching on our faces and arms. I said to my cousin, what's wrong? Why aren't we going by coach? He said, listen, we just have to get to Germany. I said, nobody had told me it would be like this. But he said we were refugees and we had to stay with the group if we wanted to escape. Nobody had told me. Anyway, we carried on walking, frightened, nervous. They told us to hurry up and we struggled on. When the sun came up, we were told we had to stop and hide under the trees, 1 tree each. Then those 4 smugglers finished their stint and they were replaced by 4 others. It was all organised. I was amazed. They told us not to shout or to make any noise. If we needed the toilet, we had to do it where we were, under the tree. We were all responsible for our own safety. We had to stay down to avoid being seen by helicopters. So they told us to stay in hiding. Then they went off and left us on our own all day. That was the worst part, sitting there shivering in the freezing cold. We had to wait patiently for nightfall. Then the men would come back and we would start walking again, heading for Germany. It was agonising. One man said he couldn't go on, and a smuggler just said sorry, took out his baton, whacked him on the head and killed him. We were terrified. I couldn't look. We just had to keep eyes forward and keep going, walking on and on. Just before we got to Germany, going through Poland was the most dangerous part. It was mountainous, freezing cold, and the snow was very deep and hard to walk through. Our feet kept sinking. The women found it hard, but that was their choice. We couldn't think about helping others because we had to look after ourselves. If we tried to help them, we'd weaken ourselves, and we had to survive, so I never helped them. But my cousin, luckily it was just before Germany, he couldn't walk and he collapsed, so I had to help him. Thank God it helped that I was able to push him down the slopes, like skiing, instead of having to carry him down. And we got to Germany safely. That was the most dangerous part, Poland, because of all the snow.
From Germany, you travelled to France. Then you stowed away in the back of a lorry. What was that like?
It was a big lorry. It was blue, with straps holding in the cargo. It was full of boxes of fruit, like tomatoes and vegetables. So I crawled in on top of these wooden crates, just inches under the top of the lorry. It could have been dangerous and difficult to breathe, but luckily there was enough space. The lorry driver didn't know we were there. The smugglers told the 5 of us in the lorry we had to keep well apart so we could breathe. So we made sure we had enough space. My cousin was to my right, in front of us was somebody else, and a boy, and behind us was the one with the knife for cutting open the cover. 2 rows of people and one at the back. It was going fine, then the boy in front started pooping himself. It smelled awful. I felt safe where I was. I held on to the wooden slats on the crates to steady myself and stayed like that all the way to the boat to London. But that was what saved us, being able to breathe.
So you arrived in Britain, England. Was it easy enough to get permission to stay?
Yes, when I arrived, they were lovely to me. They treated me well as a deaf person, and they were even quick to get an interpreter for me. We couldn't communicate very easily, but the interpreter was lovely. They did what they could with gestures and taught me 1 or 2 BSL signs. They told me there were places in London where I could learn to sign BSL. I didn't really understand, but I just smiled as if I understood. I wouldn't do that now. I would ask them to explain everything, but I was too nervous.
Did you find it difficult to learn BSL and English?
For me, oh yes. I went to City Lit first, in their old building. The teacher was lovely. She taught me BSL really well. She said BSL and Sri Lankan Sign Language seemed to be quite similar. Signs like why, when, live, and so on. She asked how, and I explained there was a Scottish connection, and she was fascinated. She enjoyed my stories, and we got on really well together. I learned really fast. I jumped from level 2 to level 3 to level 6, and I got my certificates. My English started at a very basic level. I didn't know any English when I arrived. In Sri Lanka, I'd learned to read and write Tamil, so it was a real struggle to learn to read and write English. My reading's quite good now, but when I write in English, they tell me I'm very BSL in my grammar, so I always get the interpreter to help me translate. But I'm proud of myself. I know I've worked hard. I know if I want to live here, I have to learn English and BSL. I'll benefit from both of them. So, I'm proud of myself.
You had a few different jobs here in London, and now you work with young deaf people with mental health problems. That's a hard job, and it wasn't long since you'd learned BSL and English. So how did you manage to make such a success of that?
Well, it's something inside me. Because if they make mistakes in their signing, or if they've been through suffering or had certain experiences, I can empathise with them, because I've been through similar things. So I try my best to support them. With the clients, I know my boundaries, because they're very quick to form attachments, and they often see me as something like a brother. But I have to be careful and remind them we're members of staff and they're our patients. When they're discharged, I've realised it can be quite painful for me because I form attachments with them as well. It was a strange feeling. Luckily, I didn't see my first client leaving. I was off work, so I wasn't there to say goodbye. There's always an attachment with new clients, but I've got more used to it and I'm a bit thicker skinned now. When I started this work, I realised it was the perfect match for me. I could understand their emotions, even if they attacked me or spat at me. I carried on supporting them, and it's been 8 years now. I love it. It satisfies something inside me. I love studying and learning. My aim is to become a nurse one day, but I'm impressed with myself, how hard I've worked, when I look at myself.
Now, your wife came from Lithuania, a Christian, and you're a Muslim. So how did the two of you get together? And how did that go down with your family?
Yes, that's right. I never expected it. Once when I was younger, I told my friends in Sri Lanka I dreamed of marrying a white woman one day, but they just laughed at me, and I forgot about it. When I came to England, I did have some brief relationships, but I thought I might have to go back to Sri Lanka to find somebody. When I met her, I wasn't thinking. What was important was we could communicate well. She knew she liked me. I was a bit slower to make the move. Then I started to be attracted to her as well. We had fun. We felt the same way about a lot of things, had the same kind of outlook, we communicated well, understood each other, and then it just blossomed. I knew she was the one. Then I explained to her that maybe to get a better understanding, we should visit a deaf imam, a preacher, at an Islamic centre, and she could ask him questions. So we went to watch him preach, and he talked about having respect for other people. She liked what she saw, and she asked him questions afterwards. Later on, she told me she decided she likes Islam, she likes my family, and she'd be happy to marry me. I was really pleased and impressed with her. I respected her for it. So we started planning our wedding, sorted everything out, got married, and we've been happy ever since. And now we've got 2 children, a very happy family.
You and your wife also took on the responsibility of fostering a deaf son. Was that a difficult procedure? And how has that worked out with him?
It was good. We talked to the children beforehand. We told them we were applying to foster somebody. They seemed fine with that. Then we stepped outside and let the social worker ask them some questions. They said they were happy. Their parents coped well with bringing them up. The social worker was quite surprised. So our foster son came and we introduced him to everybody. He couldn't believe our children could sign, and we all communicated so well. So we got to know them. He talked with my son about football and computer games, and he enjoyed being able to sign with us 24 hours a day. He couldn't keep his eyes off our conversations, so he fit in really well.
You're a deaf, Sri Lankan, Muslim, Asian. When you came to Britain, did you feel people looked at you differently here? Or did you feel you were accepted quickly? What did you feel?
Yes. I really appreciate how Britain respects people. When I first came here, I was nervous. I was worried about how people would look at me, possibly bully me or something like that, because I had read in the newspapers that people here in Britain pick on Asians and attack them. But in my experience, people have been lovely and warm. They say hello and make me feel welcome. It's a warm, beautiful country, and I appreciate that.
Thinking about people in Sri Lanka and Britain, what do you see as the main cultural differences, the different ways?
Yes. In Sri Lanka, people are a lot more open. We don't have to text ahead to arrange a visit, agree what time, check our schedules, agree on the process and everything. If we want to visit, we go and visit. People come and go as they please. We visit our neighbours whenever we feel like it. We don't have to make an appointment. If I'm sitting eating and somebody visits, they're welcome to come in, sit down and eat with me. Here, it's different. You have to remember what's appropriate, be careful not to cross boundaries, text ahead to ask if it's okay to visit, what time, what date, agree all the details. It's interesting. The two cultures are complete opposites. Same with clothes, completely different as well.
Do you think you'd like to move back one day?
Well, I like it here. I'm going to university soon, to train as a nurse. I've got a job here. I'm providing a role model for Sri Lankan deaf people, becoming a nurse. There are interpreters for translation between English and Tamil and sign language to give me access and communication. They could do the same. I want to show them what can be done and to work for similar deaf developments in Sri Lanka. Plus, it would be difficult for me to live there because there's no equality for deaf people. There are no good paid jobs. Most of them are happy with old-fashioned jobs like sewing and machinist work. There's been no change or development there. How could I choose that? I prefer life here. There's good access. I've got a rich language, BSL. I teach BSL. I work in mental health. My family all have strong BSL. My 2 children communicate in BSL. So I'd like to stay here. Maybe sometime, I don't know, when I'm old, I might want to retire to Sri Lanka. But my wife wouldn't, so that could be a dilemma. And there's the children to think about as well. I don't know. That's in the future. That's for today. I love living in Britain.